Hello and welcome back to Popcorn Chat. I hope you guys are doing well. In this video, I'll be running through the Evil Dead trilogy in preparation for Evil Dead Rise, which comes out in a few weeks here in the UK. So I was quite late to the series. I decided to watch them in preparation for Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness. I think I possibly had seen Evil Dead 2 alone prior to this, but I decided to watch all three films and I picked up the Blu-ray, which has all three films in it. And I watched this a few years ago now in order to prepare for that film. So I thought I'd run you through my thoughts on those three before we go and watch Evil Dead Rise, which comes out very soon here in the UK. So first up, we have The Evil Dead, which came out in 1981. The film follows five friends who travel to a cabin in the woods where they unknowingly release flesh-possessing demons. As I said, I'd watched Evil Dead 2 randomly by itself before this, so I came into the first film knowing the knowledge of the second film. So saying that, it definitely doesn't really meet the level of its sequel. I think there's a lot more production value in the second one. This one feels quite small budget. Some of the practical effects feel quite minimal. There's a lot of stop motion in there, which obviously we get to see developed in the second film, but the stage in the first film, it feels quite low budget and sort of experimental in terms of what Sam Raimi is trying to find out that he wants in the feel of his film. I do think this is quite a scary film. It's before the whole sort of campiness comes into the series. There's definitely a lot of sort of jump scare moments. I do think the makeup at the time was pretty scary, and I'm sure lots of audiences felt that way. I just think, knowing what I know with the rest of the films, it doesn't really hold up as well for me in terms of the film and what I'm looking for when I think of the Evil Dead trilogy. So I gave this film 2 stars out of 5. Next up, we have Evil Dead 2, which came out in 1987. So in this film, we follow Ash, who is a lone survivor of an onslaught of flesh-possessing spirits and is held up in a cabin with a group of strangers whilst the demon continues their attack. I think when people think of an Evil Dead film, they think of this one. It has Sam Raimi's stamp in terms of tone, gore, horror. There's everything in this film that I think lots of fans enjoy and come back to time and time again. You can see the progression in the makeup, the visual effects. From that budget that he's got between the first and the second film, there's a massive step up and it's a lot more effective in this one. When I first watched this, I remember thinking that the makeup was genuinely terrifying. However, it then is cut through with this really sort of comedic, bizarre dialogue that's written in the scripts, and the sort of puppetry of the deer sort of took me out. But I think the makeup is really terrifying, especially the sort of gaunt sort of eyes, the sockets being really visible and the sort of white eyes. That is quite terrifying to me, especially when we see Ash have that sort of same look as these demons. I thought it was quite scary, but I think what Sam Raimi's great at doing is balancing that with comedic dialogue. So it really sort of treads that sort of fine line of a comedic horror that have inspired many sort of directors and writers from this film alone. I really enjoyed this one, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. On to the third film in this trilogy, The Army of Darkness, which came out in 1992. In this film, Ash is transported to 1300 AD, where he must retrieve the Necronomicon and battle an army of the dead so he can return home. For me, this one was just not as good as number 2. I think the setting is so random, which you can kind of expect these films, it's going to be silly, but the setting felt really weird, and setting it in this medieval time, there was this whole sort of thing with accents. Is it England? Is it America? There's a whole kind of messy sort of world building in terms of where are they? Is it an Americanized medieval times, which is bizarre in itself. But then again, it's such a small aspect of a silly set of films. I'm just being really picky here. This instalment definitely leans much more on the comedic side that Sam Raimi has sort of threaded throughout his films, but it allows Bruce Campbell to sort of go really to town with this in terms of his performance. I'm sure there's maybe some improvised lines, so let me know if I'm wrong on that one, but it feels just sort of let's have a go with it. We've got money, we've got the fans backing us. So they had fun with this one. And I appreciate that. It is fun, this one. And they can do some really great sort of practical effects. Again, the makeup's great as well in this one. But I think the whole sort of setting and the narrative itself doesn't really work for me. It's not as good as number 2, in my opinion. So I gave this film 3 out of 5 stars. So if we're going to rank those films from worst to best, at the bottom I would have number 1, then I'd have number 3, and at the top would be number 2. I hope you guys enjoyed these short reviews of the Evil Dead trilogy. There will be another video coming out about the Evil Dead 2013 remake and how some fans have received it really well and some others do not like it. So this is all for the build-up of the Evil Dead Rises. I'm really excited to check this one out. I've never seen the Evil Dead films in the cinema, so I'm excited to see this one, and I know I'm definitely going to be scared. Let me know your favourite out of the original trilogy down below in the comments. Is it the same as me, or have you got a different ranking? I would love to check those out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon for another Popcorn Chat.